Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with Gareth for a Champions League Talking Tactics special. We had to get on and analyse this game. I mean, I'm still speechless, Gareth. I'm still speechless. How we're talking before we came on the show. I mean, before we get our analysts' hats on, how are you feeling just as an Aston Villa fan? Supporter for all these years, the game, the occasion, the win. Just sum it up how you're feeling right now.
Yeah, I think it was almost like it was written in the stars, wasn't it? But like 1-0 in 1982, and we go 1-0 now. But I don't know, it was like I said to you before, it's like watching it with my old man, and it was just like the first one went in and it was disallowed, and you're thinking, could we? Is there a chance here? And then the game wore on, you think, I'm not so sure about that. But then Duran comes on and you're starting to think to yourself, do you know what? Even my man said it. You could score here. Sure enough, we did. And it was just unbelievable, wasn't it, really? You couldn't quite believe that. That's, like I said to you, that we were playing Bayern Munich at Villa Park, let alone actually winning the game. And even though we might not have thoroughly deserved to win it, I think the performance overall probably warranted it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the tale of the tape, the stats, the analysis, we'll all get into it. How we got the win, how Emery masterminded it, the shape of the team. I mean, there's a few slides where it looks at the dominance of Bayern Munich, but at the end of the day, it's the scoreline that matters. We'll get into all of that. Make sure you smash that like button and hit the subscribe button. I have put 4,600 on here, but we've actually passed 4,700. We're on the road to 5k, so please like, subscribe, and get your comments in on yesterday's performance. So, tail of the tape first, general match stats. Anything to pick out here, Gareth, that you noticed?
A lot of we rank very highly in all the defensive stats, and they rank very highly in most of the passing and the attacking stats. I mean, which is probably fair. It's the way the game went, and we can clearly see that sort of they spent 83% of the field to it in our final third, which was probably fair. We saw it a lot, and that's a fair reflection of the game. But again, our tackles, our interceptions, our clearances, and our passes per defensive, we're really sort of on that defensive number. We really tried to sort of not be so aggressive. I think he knew that Bayern were going to come out and be aggressive, and we had to deal with that, which we did really well.
Yeah, very organised, and players seem to know their jobs particularly well. And not only know their jobs, I'm sure they know their jobs in all the games, but they stuck to the task particularly well. And that was testament to the defensive discipline, the clearances, the interceptions, and the tackles. So successful in terms of those statistics. Looking at the sorry mate.
No, sorry, I was just going to say, I think we were really organised, I think, and at times it was a little bit disjointed, I think, where we were sort of a little bit nervy maybe, but overall I think he got it spot on.
Yeah, definitely. Looking at the networks, anything specific here? Anything that you're noticing in regards to field position, regards to average positions of players as well?
Yeah, I mean, you can clearly see that Bayern's average sort of the pass was at 66 metres, which is well over the halfway line. You can clearly see Kimmich dropping into that right-sided centre-back role almost, or sort of pushing into midfield. Now, against Leverkusen, as I highlighted in my thread on the site, he tended to drop in central against Leverkusen, but here he didn't do that. He tended to sort of go a little bit further forward, and he is the dictator of that side. And we can clearly see that for us, our average passing was 37 metres, so really close to our own goal compared to Bayern's, which is much further away, of course. But Bayern, from Upamecano and Kim into Kimmich and into midfield and Pavlovic, whereas we're tending to knock it around at the back a little bit just to try and keep hold of a little bit of possession.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, we might touch on this a bit later, but I'll bring it up slightly now. You might have more comment on it, but did it seem a little bit strange to you, the tactic of isolating Upamecano and keeping him 1v1 against Ollie Watkins? Like, did that seem a strange tactic from Company?
It was very strange. Yeah, I think it was strange. But I think he obviously thought, he's a similar player to Konate for Liverpool. So they've got pace. They can manage, defensively, they're pretty good at Pemecano. It was just a little bit odd. Yeah, it was that they isolated him. But I think it was more of a sort of the means became in the game. It was almost like Watkins sensed the chance. And if we can isolate them one-on-one, I mean, he'd have preferred to isolate Kim, who was the slowest of the two, really. But I think it sort of became apparent by the aggression that Bayern was showing in possession, what we could do out of possession. And I think that was sort of dictated to Watkins quite early on because he clearly targeted him.
Yeah, he loves those type of battles as well. Like, he's done it to Van Dijk, he's done it to Saliba and Gabriel. He loves those battles where he can have that strength, but as well as the pace as well, in that speed endurance, which we know Ollie Watkins is really good at.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think he was really troubling Upamecano. And to be honest, let's be honest, he shouldn't have seen the game out, Rich. He should have been, That was 2 yellows, if not a straight red for the first one. A little bit dodgy, but definitely 2 yellows there. So he had him on strings, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Looking at these pass sonars, a really nice slide again. We've got the Bayern Munich one and the Villa one. So with regards to the Bayern Munich one, anything that you're noticing with pass direction, pass frequency?
Well, I think it just sums up, sort of backs up the passing networks, doesn't it? Where we can see just past the halfway line, 66 metres you're talking. So you're talking that's where they're playing the majority of their passes. But look how compact they are, from front to back. They're compact. They're moving the ball through the lines really well and out into wide areas. And Kingsley Coman really heavily involved them. It didn't seem so much like that in the game, but he was heavily involved, I think. And it's a lot of central passing going on, but that's how they choose to play.
Interesting, Harry Kane's there, not necessarily high. Like Serge Gnabry's the highest one in this. Is this like average positions? Is this like Harry Kane's dropping quite deep there?
Yeah, 100%. It's all average positions and their passing sonars on top of that, of course. So you get Harry Kane dropping in, and again, I refer back to the thread I made on the One Villa analysis before the game. Kane for Bayern, they like to drop him in and they like to have 2 players going almost beyond, which is sort of similar how he did it at Spurs, ended up, didn't he? Not rightly maybe, but that's how they sort of do it. And that's reflected in that again.
Yeah. Looking at the Villa one, again, backing up the average positions. Anything in particular you notice in here as well?
No, again, but it backs it up nicely, nice and, we're deep, sort of quite a low block as it were, but we're reasonably half aggressive in the press. It wasn't sort of intense because they knew that they couldn't do that, but interesting to see that the really dark Yuri Tielemans one, and that's pointing up to that left-hand side. Now we know that Upamecano was playing in that position, and that's the channel that Ollie Watkins was targeting. That's really interesting to see. And the same from Martinez as well, we can see there from the goal kicks. Really dark purple, really long passes. So, it's a clear sort of left-sided channel bias there.
Yeah, interesting. Really good stuff there. And the shot map, key ones for Villa, obviously. That star, I mean, that is just unreal. Quite a few for Bayern, but we were chatting before. There weren't so many amazing chances, barring the couple right at the end.
No, considering they had 17 shots and they've only hit 1.56 xG, that's quite a low sort of amount really for 17 from a team like Bayern standards, you would say. But expected goals per shot 0.31 is reasonably high, but just the one big chance, and plus the one big chance missed.
Yeah, exactly. And the game, the expected threat across the game, for consistent for Bayern. A couple of spells for Villa though, and you could see that in the game, couldn't you? You could see us growing in confidence. Certain players, Morgan Rogers was a threat when he was carrying the ball forward. Jadon Philogene at times as well had some really nice moments, and the substitutions, obviously Maatsen and Duran made an impact as well. And we obviously know the Duran impact, but. Yeah, we still had our moments in the game, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. This kind of sort of semi-reflects it and semi doesn't really, because at times we were quite attack-minded. We looked really threatening, but the graphic doesn't necessarily represent so much higher attacking threat. But overall, I think, yeah, even though this is just measuring expected threat from passes and carries, it is quite a fair reflection of the game, as you say. They sort of did have moments in the game, sort of quite early on. They started really well. We come into it just before half time, and that really did get the crowd up, I felt, just before half time. Literally 5 minutes we're talking. And they went in at half time buoyed.
Yeah, exactly. And a few, looking at the chances created, where our passes were ending up, where Bayern's passes were ending up. We've got the pass locations here, the pass end locations. Again, anything that you're kind of picking out here, particular areas we were targeting, particular areas Bayern were targeting?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we can clearly see that left-sided for Martinez, sort of receiving a lot of passes back to him. So that's the representative of the 8% probably. And we can clearly see Pau Torres in that left centre-back position around the 6, the 7s, and the 5s on that left-hand side. And interestingly, that higher sort of 7%, which is just past the halfway line. So again, quite interesting. But yeah, we can clearly see where Bayern are, centre of the park, knocking it forward into the sort of lesser final thirds, if you like, and not quite so deep into the box. But that's, again, it's quite fairly reflective of what we saw.
Yeah. And we saw, when Duran came on, and he, towards the end of Ollie Watkins' time on the pitch as well, quite a few direct balls that particularly Duran was winning in the air, which was good. And maybe it's something that we will see us mixing up a little bit moving forward. Obviously, we play across the back, we play those probing passes through midfield, but to be able to mix it up is important, and particularly, I guess, in Europe, where there are times when you can catch teams out.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a case of, can we go? I thought we went from back to front quite quickly, and I think that was more effective in this game, as we saw the longer balls, like we said, to Watkins and Duran. But I must say, Pau Torres, for me, was my man of the match. I thought he was fantastic, especially on the ball. But defensively, he was very good. But I thought on the ball, he made some really, really good choices.
Yeah, those Euro nights, Pau Torres is made for those where it needs that intelligence. He gets a little bit more time on the ball, there's a little bit less hustle and bustle. It's kind of made for him, really, and that's, his technique and his calmness shines through, and obviously the pass for the goal was excellent. In terms of the chance creation, looking at this, 4 in that area there for Bayern, the couple for Villa in that left-hand channel. Anything else to report?
A lot of central play again from Bayern and out to this sort of left-hand side, which we saw with Coman and etc. And yeah, for us, there's not much to write home about there, really. I mean, the chance that was, that is the Pau Torres one, the direct one, obviously, sort of the top left there, if you like. So yeah, it's interesting, but it's not much to say from our perspective.
No. But the one that mattered was the one that mattered. That was it. That's all it needs. That's absolutely all it needs. Quick look at the turnovers, high turnovers. So, again, anything that you noticed with this?
No, I mean, it's just a case of 6 for us and 10 for them, obviously, but they sort of do tend to press quite high, and we can clearly see that they've won it sort of 3 times deep into their own sort of left-hand side there. So, yeah, they do tend to press quite high. We didn't so much. But when we did, it was reasonably effective. And a lot of those, apart from the top left, up from our perspective, those 5 are almost like Watkins on the press, I think, a lot of that. So that was quite interesting. I think if he would have done that a little bit more, he could have been that little bit more effective, because winning the ball, he was in on goal, wasn't he?
Yeah, and you could see that Upamecano and is it Kim at the back? Yeah, they're not. They were fairly comfortable on the ball, but they're not the most comfortable. A few times he was kicking it. The ball was being kicked out of play, or they were trying to reverse pass that didn't quite find the man. So you're right in what you're saying. I guess there's that risk reward, isn't there? If you commit too many men forward, then you get the likes of Elise, Kimmich, Musiala in the second half on the ball in a little bit of extra space. Then they're going to punish you, aren't they? So it was kind of balancing it up, I imagine.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the game to be pressing high and risking, like you say, everything. I just think sort of with Upamecano, I think he was really rattled first half. I think if Watkins could have really pushed on, sort of, towards the end of that first half, early doors of the second half, I think he maybe have had a little bit more, because I think Upamecano was really rattled, and I think almost Kim was looking across at him as if to say, "Well, rather you than me, pal," because you're getting all the stick, and I'm sort of getting away with everything here. So yeah, just maybe a little bit more, but it didn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. Defensive shape. You talked about us being quite deep. Anything you're noticing with Villa? I think that's quite compact, I would say. And then looking at Bayern, you see number 3 is left kind of isolated on his own, and that's, I guess, what transpired.
Exactly. And number 3 was, of course, our old friend Upamecano. So, but it's really interesting to see how Torres and Digne and Konsa and Carlos are really close together, then keeping on the edge of the box. And that's what we call the half spaces. And that's where Bayern and Kane, Musiala, they like to operate in those zones. So, and it was really interesting to see that, how we were sort of quite, there was just a little bit of space in the middle, but outside wide we were okay. When it came inside, we were then compact and relied on Onana and Tielemans. So it was interesting to see.
Yeah. Now, step up our goalkeeper in the big moments right at the end. Emi Martinez, absolutely tremendous. I mean, what else can we say? Just a clutch goalkeeper, comes out, performs in the key moments.
Yeah. My favourite graphic of the pod, to be honest, when I did this, I could not believe, expected goals on target face 1.41, and he saves the lot, 1.41 goals prevented. So, in fact, he's prevented nearly 2 goals there, which is incredible when you look at it, because the saves that he made coming, I gave Torres my man of the match, but I was a bit early doors in the game, I think, and then I should have left it, because Martin is absolutely fantastic. That Harry Kane to the top left there, and the ones that bigger one is the one that we talked about previously that could have been offside, the tap in from close range, but just an unbelievable performance from a goalkeeper.
Yeah, I mean, the Elise one, he probably knows that Elise loves that type of shot, so he's going, and that was a brilliant save. But when you talk about these one-on-ones, or when players are close to Emi Martinez, there's so many times now in their head they must be thinking, this shot has to be perfect to be able to beat him. We think about the Ipswich Liam Delap 1v1 against him the other day on Sunday. He's almost getting an extra split second in his mind, or putting that extra bit of doubt in the striker's mind, because it's Emi Martinez in goal, and that's the sign of the great goalkeeper.
Yeah, definitely. And he hasn't got a specific technique either. It's sort of like he sort of really mixes it up with his legs or with his hands. But his anticipation, as you say, from really close range is incredible. And to sort of, like you say, the Delap one was similar, wasn't it, to the one we saw last night? And to stop them from such close range, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. And I think the celebration that he does and all that, I think that's all part of it. That's all part of the persona. It's like, you're not getting past me, and it's almost like an intimidation thing, which is all part of what he does. So long may it continue.
Yeah, I mean, his all-round game is very good, isn't it? His kicking's pretty good, and like you say, the way he's sort of trying to wind people up subconsciously, he G's the crowd up behind him. He's got everything, hasn't he? Sort of like that, a bit of a groveler almost.
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of that, so really interesting to see him do that.
Yeah. And finally, this one made me laugh a little bit. The zones of control. I mean, yeah, we didn't exactly dominate across the pitch. Let's say that. Let's put it that way.
No, my least favourite graphic of the pod. So yeah, I mean, again, the zones of control are interesting, because in this aspect, because we know we played out again through the left hand side, but we're really sort of. We did spend, if you remember, a lot of the time sort of deep in that corner on quite a few occasions, to having to kick the ball long or whatever. So it is representative, but yeah, Bayern just dominated all over today.
But they didn't dominate in the most important statistic, and that's the scoreline. And to win 1-0, to be 6th in the group, 100% record, 2 clean sheets. I mean, I don't think you could have dreamt it as an Aston Villa supporter, as an analyst, Unai Emery would have been, this is what we can do. But I mean, even he must be absolutely ecstatic that not only have they got these points, but they executed the plan that he masterminded to perfection.
Yeah, and it was a plan. I think it was like I said about the Watkins on Pemecano. I think it was adapted quite early on throughout the game. Let's be compact and let's see what we can do. We'll let Kimmich have the ball where he wants to have it, but let's just shut off those passing lanes. And considering Onana didn't have his best game, I didn't think last night, but Tielemans was pretty good. But we sort of maybe manipulated some spaces in the areas that mattered, and the ball seemed to fall for us, didn't it? So we won the tackle, and the ball fell for us on the turnovers, and it was really interesting to see that. And I think a bit of luck did come into it. I do think that, but the way that we set up on the shape was really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And like I say, it sets us up really well for the rest of this tournament. And we've commented that it's been really successful so far. There's been some great games and so many teams that have come into this tournament, like Aston Villa, like Lille, and one or two others that are putting out some big results and putting in some big performances. So it is really going to be exciting right up until the last couple of games, because teams are going to have an opportunity to get through, which is what they want, what UEFA want.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see if teams like Villa, like Lille, for example, are on the cusp of, maybe, let's not jinx it, but of going out of that top eight, but also having the opportunity to get into that top eight. What do they do? Who are they playing? Do they have an easy game the last game? Do they keep their best team for the last game, knowing that they might be just 2 points outside of it? So do they play, a weakened side for the second penultimate game? And do they play a stronger side for the last game, whether they're at home or away? There's so many factors that can go into it. And I was really impressed. You mentioned Lille. I was really impressed with Lille last night. I was really impressed with what I saw at Brest as well. Just other teams, it is a really open competition, it seems, and the level is high.
Yeah. Well, look, we will be here right through it, analysing all of Aston Villa's games, and we'll hopefully be back as well in Premier League talking tactics action after the Manchester United game, because that is a huge one coming up on Sunday, Gareth.
Yeah. Can we keep a run going? Can we keep following up good performances after good performances? And don't forget, we're without John McGinn. We might be without Jacob Ramsey, but there's players still to come in, Boubacar Kamara, Tyrone Mings. So can we gain a little bit of squad strength at the right time, especially for this Champions League run?
Yeah. Well, like I say, we'll be right here with it. Gareth, once again, thank you so much for your fantastic analysis. Where can people find you to get extra information and to get all these wonderful visuals?
Yeah, we're going to stick all this up as usual on One Villa Analysis, but at that Gareth AJC as well, so all over it.
Brilliant. Guys, thank you all for watching. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Get your comments in as well. Reminiscing on another fantastic performance. Like I say, the statistic that matters is the scoreline, and we won 1-0. We'll be back later on this week with plenty of preview action for the Manchester United game, and obviously match reactions after the game, hopefully after 3 points going into the international break. Thank you all for watching, and as always, remember, we'll follow the Villa.